this one. Topic number 2. You ready?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this because we were talking to Lori Warren from Richmond Raceway. You know, this is one of those rare night races.
Right.
In NASCAR.
7 o'clock on Friday and Saturday.
On Friday and Saturday. I do like the truck series because, like she said, those are kids, those are younger drivers looking for a ride in NASCAR. So they get aggressive because they're trying to make things happen. But having that rare night race in NASCAR is something that people have this race on their bucket list. Like I got a buddy of mine. The judge, my fraternity brother, my best friend, the best man at my wedding. He wants to come out, and we used to talk about trying to come out last year, this year, but it's on his bucket list of things he wants to see is a nighttime NASCAR race. So there are people that will fly in from around the country to come to Richmond for this race, not just regionally, but from all around the country. What's the one thing that you want to do while you still can?
Oh, wow.
What's the one event you want to see? The band?
It's just not one.
Nope, you got to pick one.
When it's called the bucket list, for me, it's the list.
I know. I hate that thought.
Of things that I want to see, places I want to go, things I want to do. I like to go to Daytona 500. I like to go to Indianapolis 500. I've been to the track there when I was a kid, but I not for the race. But I'd love to go see that at the Indy 500.
Let's just dream big. What's the one thing you want to see? And it doesn't have to be sports. It can be anything. It could be a band. It's what's your hope and dream that you want to do one day? What's your fantasy that, oh my gosh, it would be awesome if I could do that. I'm opening up the phone line. So you could talk about one of the two. Let's see what people really want to talk about today. I'm just doing my whole little research project on you because I asked where everybody was, and I think that's pretty cool. But I'm going to open up the phone lines and see where you guys want to go. 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140. One is a very serious political discussion that I'm prepared to have, that if I'm a Democrat, I'm sincerely disturbed right now at the way my party is going and the direction they're leaning, because this is not, some of these people are just so far out there. So if I'm a Democrat, are you seriously concerned? And there's a whole bunch of other people like, I hope El Said wins. I don't, because that just normalizes that far left radical. I mean, it's bad enough Zoran Mamdani is making it normal for people to think communism is good in America. For anybody that says, hey, it's a good thing all these radical left-wingers are winning because that means we could beat them. No. The fact that they've gained that much power that they could be in Congress, now you're looking at them in the Senate, that virus of communism and socialism and Marxism is only growing. So if anybody says it's a good idea, it's not. So if you want to talk about that, 833-804-1140. I could do two things at once. I could talk and chew gum at the same time. 833-804-1140. Phone lines are open if you want to discuss that. Or if you'd like to talk about what's your one thing you've always wanted to do? What's your fantasy? What's that one moment you've always wanted to have? Like, so Dave, we went to Ireland and my wife said forever. We went on a Colette trip. She said forever. You know what I always wanted to do? Her little fantasy was? And by the way, I wasn't part of the fantasy, so I'm not sure how good this is. She wanted to go to the Waterford Crystal Factory and drink champagne while shopping in the Waterford store.
They serve you champagne while you're shopping there?
Oh, they have a bar.
Oh, wow.
And you could drink champagne out of Waterford flutes. And they have full cocktails and everything. So that was her one thing she's always wanted to do. I'd love to find out from you, what's that one thing that you really, really want? 833-804-1140. 833-804-1140 is the number for you to join us. So you can either talk about hardcore politics or tell me what you really have always wanted to see, to do, to experience. Dave said it's Indy, it's Daytona. What's the one thing I've always wanted to do? I'm going to tell you, I'm rather spoiled because of I'm a huge sports fan, so I've pretty much been to every football stadium in America, college and NFL. Stood in the sidelines at most of them. Been to just about every baseball stadium, standing on the field at those. Covered the NBA for a while.
Andrew.
Club 33. That's the one thing that I've never done that I'd always wanted to do. You know what Club 33 is, Dave?
No.
It's the secret club inside. It's exclusive club, very bougie inside Disneyland, Disney World.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, to go have dinner at Club 33 would be something that I couldn't even imagine. What's yours? 833-804-1140. You can go hardcore politics, or we could talk about what's the one thing you've always wanted to do.
Andrew on politics.
Let's go to Andrew on line 1. Hey, Andrew, welcome. You're on News Radio WRVA. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am too blessed to be stressed out.
What do you got for me?
Just wanted to say, man, I appreciate you calling it what it is when you call it communism, because I had that conversation the other day. It's like, oh, it's socialism. Like, there's a difference. I'm like, no, socialism always turns into communism. Always. My dad's Cuban. My dad came over to this country when he was 3 years old with his parents. My grandpa, we call him Poppy and Grandma, Grandpa Poppy and Bell. They had to. My grandpa had to lie, on government forms to be able to be released to fly over to America. Obviously risking quite a bit there. They left everything, cars, homes, to escape Castro, to escape communism. My dad came over with literally the shirt on his back and pants on his legs and one extra pair, and he still has those pants.
Really?
That he came over, and it's such an incredible story, man. And and I talk to him about it all the time, but it's so scary that people just don't understand. So I just want to say I really appreciate you calling it what it is. Like, yeah, sure, DSA, but no, it's communism.
Okay, so I got a bunch of questions. I got a bunch of questions for you. You ready? The family members that were there. Some of them are still around, right?
My dad my dad and he has a cousin that I believe are still that are in America. Outside of that, there really hasn't been much contact, if any. So I have no idea as far as living relatives in Cuba.
Boy,
or
I would give anything to be able to speak with your dad.
Okay. I know he used to listen to you guys all the time.
Listen, if I could meet your dad, or I could just talk to him on the phone, or heck, I'd be incredibly forward if I'd ask him to come on. I actually reached out to a couple of different organizations in think tanks, and I'm working on a project to find people that have actually faced communism and have them come on the radio and explain to those that don't understand Marxism, totalitarianism, true authoritarianism, because you don't believe it until you actually experience it. It's like, I'll put it to you this way. I've read about segregation my whole life, but I wasn't alive. I didn't know what it was like until I moved to Florida. And there was this hot dog stand that I would go to. It was great hot dogs. It was called Coney Island Hot Dogs. Don Zimmer was the one who showed me where it was, and he loved going in there before a game on his way to work. And I would stop by and start going in. And I noticed there was this little window off to the side in the corner. I'm like, I wonder what that is. And I just became a regular in there. And one day I said, what's that? And they go, oh, that's the colored window. I said, what? I said, that's when it was segregated. That was a colored window. And I said, oh my God. And I went out and I looked at it. I'm like, and now this comes alive. That's why I love museums, because when you see something, it actually comes alive. Now it becomes real. And I stood there like, oh my gosh. And now I have a better understanding of what segregation really felt like, standing there looking at this boarded up window. And I said, how come it's still there? She goes, we don't want people to forget. Wow.
Yeah.
And I think a bunch of people, when it comes to communism, have forgotten. So, you know who Dan Le Batard is?
I know the name. Okay. I don't follow politics as closely as I should. I understand what I need to.
Actually, he's a sports guy. So okay. So Dan Le Batard's a sports guy, ESPN forever. I worked with him down in Miami. His dad was Poppy, and if you'd see him on TV, his dad had the big, thick Cuban accent, right? So I'm working in Miami doing sports talk radio the day that Fidel Castro dies.
Wow.
And my program director called me and goes, Rich, I know you could do, this is before I came to News Radio WRVA, and I was just thinking about making the transition. He goes, I think you can handle this. Do me a favor. we're not going to talk about sports for the next 4 hours because this is such a big deal in Miami. I need you to do news. Yeah. He said, Dan's going to call into you and Dan's going to talk to you, but I need you just to recap and just take telephone calls. And the people of Miami are celebrating the streets because Castro's gone. I said, okay. So Dan called in. Dan, I got a hold of Dan, and he's a huge star. I never talked to him before. We worked at the same radio station, but I said, okay. And he tells me the story. When his family was getting ready to leave, they had the papers. There was 4 of them, I believe. And they were getting ready. They're on the tarmac. They're all getting ready to go. And one of the soldiers looked at their papers, grabbed them, let me see your papers, shows them the papers, and they take one of them and they rip it up. And now they only have 3 sets of papers. And they said, pick one. And he goes, what do you mean, pick one? Pick who has to stay.
Yeah.
And one volunteered to stay, and he was thrown into a prison for trying to leave. And they did that to make an example out of him. And he said that Dan's grandmother would go visit him at the prison every day that she could, just to let him know to hang on. He was in prison for the longest time. I think there's something called Ladies in White, and she became one of the ladies in white that stood there and were martyrs for these Cubans that were in prison during the beginning of the revolution. He finally got out and was able to get here. But Levitar told me that story, and that's about collectivism. So they were trying to get people to understand that the collective was more important. And if you weren't part of the collective and you weren't part of this communist revolution and you weren't there for the state, then you were an outsider and you will be punished. So anybody that didn't want to go with the collectivism will go there. That's why I look at, you look at what's going on. I mean, all these kids are like, oh, the state, collectivism. You look at what's going on in Russia right now. Why is Russia fighting this war and 25,000 people are dying every year? Because the state doesn't care. The individual doesn't matter. It's the state.
Correct.
So if I have to sacrifice half my soldiers in the name of the state and the collective, so be it, because individual rights don't matter.
Rights. Yep.
All right, I talked. You go. I just want to share that story with you. Give me your thoughts.
That's an amazing story, man.
Oh my God! I sat there and was like, I kept the tape. I play it every once in a while. It makes the hair on my arm stand up. But when you see these kids over here, and I say they're kids, I know why they're turning to communism. But when you see them talk about all this great things of this Marxist revolution, and by the way, it's funny. Most of the people that are preaching Marxist revolution, the power of the people, the proletariat, let's overthrow all these bourgeois people. Do you realize that most of them come from incredible wealth? Hassan Piker is not Hassan Piker. His uncle is Cenk Yeager. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. His uncle is a huge democratic, socialist, communist media personality. And Hassan Piker comes from that. So it's not like he was a poor kid who grew up with nothing. He goes to visit Cuba. He's wearing Gucci sunglasses. Right? I can't make this stuff up. Zorhan Mamdani, his dad's a professor, and his mom is works in Hollywood doing music. None of these people. Look, you go back to Karl Marx himself. Karl Marx was dead flat broke, but his benefactor was Frederick Engels, who I think he was a textile manufacturer. And he paid for Karl Marx to sit there and do nothing, wrote the checks for him, while Marx talked about how bad it was of the Industrial Revolution and the people that had to work. But he gets paid to write that nonsense by a guy who actually owns what Karl Marx is preaching against.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, what I found, man, and it's not just kids, dude. It's, I would throw millennials in there too. And I had this conversation the other day with, it's probably a couple weeks ago, actually, with guys, a couple guys are probably in their 40s. And it wasn't, a mean conversation, or they were just asking, like, hey, because we were talking about socialism, kind of like, hey, why is that bad? And, and one of the moments, exactly. They're in their 40s. I was like, people just don't know this stuff. And I'm not as versed in it, and I don't know it as well as I should. But I've talked to my dad about it, learn as much as I can. At least, I have the maturity to understand I don't understand it as well as I should.
Well, here, I'll explain what it is. I know exactly what it is in our society right now. It's people that have decided they don't want to compete. So I have a 25-year-old son, I sent him to a very bougie high school, right? And all of these kids have been promised if you work real hard, you get into Cal, you get into Stanford, you get into Michigan, you get in one of these elite schools. That's all you have to do. You hit the lottery right there. And then when you graduate, you're taken care of for the rest of your life. So they go to these bougie schools. They work their tail off. They were so pampered, and their parents did everything. And they said, all you got to do is get into Stanford, get into UVA. And they graduate from UVA with the degree. And then they look and they expect everything to be handed to them. It's not a lottery ticket, but they were promised that.
Yes.
And now that they're out there in the real world and they're not making $300,000, they're $300,000 a year, and they're not living in a house bigger than their mom and dad's, and they're not driving a Mercedes. Capitalism sucks. I was promised something else. That's why they've been lied to, and now they're buying more of a lie.
But but it's also, and it's not even just that. It's even on the maybe not as well off side, still decent, right? I would say upper, lower to middle class.
It's because they blame everybody else.
Take care of me.
Well, yeah, they blame everybody else.
They've always bailed me out. I'm good.
Exactly.
Right? Hey, I don't, and that a lack of personal responsibility.
100%. 100%. Okay, hold on a second, because I'm coming up, and we got to throw it over to Fox for Brian Kilmeade's show. Hold on just a second, Dave. Put him back on hold. Let's get a contact information. If I could just get a chance to spend a little bit of time with your father and hear firsthand, I think it's important. And boy, if I can get him to come on the show to do that, that would be remarkable. All right, that's it. Went way over time. What a great phone call. I love this audience. All right, time for a national anthem brought to you by Freedom Services and Training, the biggest little gun store in town located in Mechanicsville. All right, that's it. We're done. Jim Gilmore joins us in the program tomorrow, and it'll be a lot of fun tomorrow. So thanks to everybody for joining us. I get up early every morning because I believe in this country. I hope you do as well. It's News Radio WRVA.
Please stand for the national anthem of the United States of America.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight?